Okay. Good evening, everybody. It's 5 o'clock, and I'll call this meeting to order on September 14th, 2021, and ask the city clerk to please call roll.
Commissioner Galt?
Present.
Commissioner Guest?
Present.
Commissioner Henderson?
Present.
Commissioner Wilson?
Present.
Mayor Bray?
Present. And I'll ask Commissioner Galt to say the invocation, and then we'll remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please bow with me. Father God, we thank you for the opportunity to gather tonight on behalf of our city. We pray for healing and prosperity for our great community. As we make decisions tonight, we pray for a spirit of wisdom and discernment to guide us. Again, we thank you for all of your abundant blessings. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Manager, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Mayor, none this evening.
Okay, first thing on the agenda tonight is a proclamation for City Government Month. This is City Government Month, and so we're celebrating that. And one of the things that we are doing is, in celebration of that, is we are inviting elementary students who attend a school in Paducah or McCracken County to celebrate City Government Month with us. So for kindergarten through second grade, students can draw a picture of their favorite thing in Paducah. For third through the fifth grade, they can write a letter to the mayor that begins with the phrase, "I will make a difference in my community by," and then whatever they think would make a difference. Templates for the letters and pictures are available on our website. The deadline to submit a picture or a letter is September 30th, and in October I will share several of those letters and pictures on an episode of Your City at Work, which is a YouTube channel that we participate in. Pictures and letters can be emailed to City Government Month. There's an email address at paducahky.gov or mailed here to City Hall. So with that, I will read the proclamation. Whereas civics education is important to ensure Kentucky children develop an interest and understanding of local government and their role in the community, and whereas Kentucky academic standards for social studies require instruction on citizenship and local government for entry-level and elementary school children, and whereas involving and informing students of local government programs and duties can provide an opportunity for entire families to connect with the vital city services and programs, and whereas there are 416 cities in Kentucky and 55% of our state's population lives in a city, and whereas City Government Month is a civics awareness campaign that educates elementary school students about city services by providing teacher lesson plans, students coloring and activity books, and classroom materials. And whereas City Government Month calls on city officials to get involved in their local schools and in educating and engaging elementary school students in city government. Now therefore, I, George P. Bray, Mayor of Paducah, hereby declare September of 2021 as City Government Month in Paducah and encourage local officials, employees, and elementary schools to educate students about their city government and to engage them in city services. So, that's it. But I hope if anyone has children or grandchildren, as I do, in city schools or county schools, that they'll urge them to get involved. So next, I have a presentation to make, and Nate Crawford, are you here? Yeah. So I want to come on, stand up with me, and I'll. One of the things I get to do as mayor is present either a Duke or a Duchess Award. And one of the prerequisites, I think, for these awards are we try to catch people that are doing great things in the community. And one of our own employees, actually nominated you, Nate, for this award. But, and I've never had the honor of meeting you up to this point, but I've heard some great things. And so I know Nate's been involved in aiding the citizens of Paducah since he's moved here, and I'm reading from what was turned in for you. One of his biggest accomplishments has been creating a fund to aid those who cannot pay their power bills. He has kept the lights on for those in need and has saved upwards of $32,000 in reconnection fees just from his efforts. He cares deeply about his fellow Paducah citizens and truly deserves this award. He's also involved in Project Pomona, which is a project that grows food on the south side of Paducah, I know. And he's vice chair of the McCracken County Democratic Party. So I'm honored tonight, Nate, to offer you this Duke of Paducah Award, which is the highest award that I, as mayor, can award somebody. So,
thank you very much.
Take a picture. Okay. There's that. Okay. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Okay, Chief Laird, we have new employee introductions. I just remarked they all looked like FBI agents walking in here in those dark suits, so it kept me on my toes.
Good evening, Mayor, Commission, City Manager, City Clerk. Proud tonight to bring to you 5 new employees for the City of Paducah, all within the Police Department. The first one is Landon Shellhart. He's been hired as a telecommunicator for the 911 Division. He's 24 years old. He's lived here in Paducah for about 4 years. He's part of the ministry within his local church and actually recently received his minister's license within that organization. And he lives here in Paducah with his wife. That's Landon. He's right here behind me. Next I have Fred Harvey. Fred comes to us from Arizona, where he worked for the Arizona State Police as a trooper there for about 7 years. Oh. He was a firearms instructor and a field training instructor as well. He moved here to Paducah with his wife and their young son recently. So he is, his academy transferred over, so he will not have to go to Richmond to the police academy. And he'll be starting our free field training program here within the next couple of days. Next I have Carlos Cordero. He comes to us after living in Florida and working there for several years. He's a military veteran, having served in the Army as well as the National Guard. And he also moved here to Paducah with his wife. Next we have Samantha Wilson. Samantha is originally from Indiana, but she's been living in Murray. She has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from University of Southern Indiana, and most recently was working as a dispatcher for the state police at Post 1 in Mayfield. And last but not least, I have Jackson McCormick. He's originally from Tennessee. He recently graduated Murray State with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, and he's also served in the National Guard since 2018. So Carlos and Samantha and Jackson are all scheduled to attend the police academy here in November. So we'll have them back in several months from now.
Well, thank you, Chief Laird, and congratulations, all of you. Look, it's a fine-looking bunch of folks, and we really look forward to having you on board. Chief Laird's doing a great job, and I hope you have a very rewarding career with our city, and we appreciate your service very, very much.
Thank you, sir.
Any other commissioners have anything?
Thank you.
Well,
Okay.
thank you.
Welcome to the team.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, at this point, I'm going to open up the public hearing for the property tax levy for fiscal year 2022. And I ask John Perkins to make a presentation, and then if there's any public comments, we'll allow those.
There's not a whole lot of room up here.
Don't start complaining.
Oh, I wouldn't mean to complain. It's just a fact. All right. If I move this, I hope I don't mess up the screens. Okay. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioner, City Manager Jordan. The purpose of this public hearing is to give the public an opportunity to comment on the proposed 27.1 cent real estate tax levy. A hearing is required by the Kentucky Revised Statutes if the proposed tax rate exceeds the comp rate or the compensation rate, which this year is 26.1 cents. Local government is permitted to adjust our tax rate by upwards of 4% above the compensating rate. So please direct your attention, if you, it's already on the screens. And I also handed to you a mega one, so you could take it home and frame it. And I'll let you study that one on your own, but that basically gives you a history lesson of what the comp rate has been for many years, what our actual rate has been for many years, and then what the maximum rate has been for a number of years. Gives you perspective. I think the mayor told me the other day he liked pictures, so that should be a good picture. This one's probably a little easier to read. Now, you don't have that one in front of you, but this is the same as what you're looking at there, except it's just easier on the eyes, and you can see over time what the actual rate has been for the city of Paducah. We've taken the maximum allowed rate just 3 times in the past 25 years. And that happened in 14, 19, and 20. We're proposing to take the maximum rate allowed this year for fiscal 22. Later in tonight's meeting, the proposed property tax levy ordinance will be introduced. Staff recommends that you set the city's real estate property tax levy at 27.1 cents, which makes the rate nearly 3 cents, or it's 2.9 cents actually, less than it was even 20 years ago. The final reading for the levy ordinance is set for September 28th, and I'll be happy to try to answer any questions you might have at this time. And I also have attached here, a mayor many, many years ago insisted that I put this up so that anybody can figure out how to figure out your taxes. So if you know what your house is valued at, you know what the levy is, there's the math formula. It's really simple. It's pretty straightforward. So does anybody have any questions for me before the public make their comment?
That's just an example you're showing.
That's just an example, yeah. That's the actual tax levy that the school system is proposing, that we will collect for.
Okay.
So it's real.
I think the natural question that somebody would ask is how much more is it going to cost me this year than last year? So on $100,000.
On $100,000, interesting question. I think it's $4.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Per
that
year.
would be, I think.
For the year.
any
For the year.
citizen-
Per year.
I'm sorry? Per
$4
year.
for the year.
Yes, for the whole year, yes. So if you were to count the school rate, the city's rate, and the junior college whom we collect for, on a $100,000 home, the total bill would be $1,151.
But that's not city taxes.
Oh, no.
That's,
Mostly not city taxes.
and that's something that confuses folks a lot. You know, they pay
does.
their tax bill and they see their tax bill is $800,000, whatever. And, the majority of that goes to, other, as you pointed out, the other.
Somebody other than the city.
Right.
Yes. That's why I like to use somebody else's levy that we collect for. Ours is 27, theirs is bigger, much bigger.
Okay, so are there any public comments? I think it's suiting that if there's a public comment, we would certainly welcome that and also try to answer any questions that anyone has.
Mayor, just one question, to make sure that I totally understand. Is he saying that
Did he come to the-
$100,000, oh, I'm sorry. Officer Boykin, just to make sure that I totally understand, and the question that you posed, is he saying, are we saying that on a $100,000 home, if you own it, that the increase that I will see total is $4, or is he saying just $4 based on the school? I'm wanting the totality of the increase.
It's the totality of the increase due to city taxes, I believe is $4, but
Exactly right.
Just based on city, but there are other taxing agencies that
If
will call set the.
we're not in control of those other
I
taxing
understand that, But as
agencies.
an example, I mean, I know it's just a city, but is he gonna use other ones to say if you, I guess what I'm wanting to know, if I had a $100,000 value last year based upon the increase, we're only gonna see a $4 increase. Is that what we're saying?
That's correct.
From the city.
From the city.
Okay.
The city's levy is going to adjust by $4. The school and the junior colleges are not. They're not changing. So in totality, and the city is $4.
Okay, so we know that they're not changing for next year, is that right?
what they
Okay,
proposed.
so that is the correct answer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arthur. Okay, so with that, if there are no other comments, I will close the public hearing at this time.
Thank you, John.
Okay, we'll move to the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the Board of Commissioners and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. The city clerk will read the items recommended for approval. Would any commissioner like an item removed for a separate discussion? Okay, so I'll ask the city clerk to please read the items recommended for approval.
Approve minutes for the August 24th, 2021 Paducah Board of Commissioners meeting. Receive and file documents. Appointment of Ronna Ward to replace Jennifer Tritle, whose term has expired, and Ardenia Cleary to replace Cindy Jones, who resigned, to the Civic Beautification Board. Said terms shall expire July 1st, 2025 and July 1st, 2023 respectively. Personnel actions, a municipal order authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with Barkley Regional Airport in the amount of $120,000 for general aviation and air carrier services. A municipal order authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with Paducah Transit Authority in the amount of $215,000 for public transportation services. A municipal order of the City of Paducah, Kentucky authorizing and approving an interlocal contract for cooperative purchasing with the Houston-Galveston Area Council and authorizing the execution of all documents related to same.
So move.
Second?
Commissioner Galt?
Aye.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye. Okay, at this point, we have a check presentation, and Chairman Boykin, I know, was concerned that somebody else was going to speak to the Paducah Transit Authority, but really it was on the consent agenda, Arthur, so we approved it, but now we have a check presentation, right?
Yep.
Come on up for your photo op.
Mr. Mayor, I have two of my board members here. I'd like to have them part of the photo line. Sure. I've got Zach Thompson with me, as well as Mark Davis.
Mayor, lift your corner just a little. Okay, just trying to get it more level. Sorry. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You guys are doing a great job. Thank you very much.
Excuse me,
Oh,
sir.
sorry.
Keep the protection.
Okay, sometimes, okay, now we're going to move to another item as the board appointments. And I actually asked for this to come off the consent agenda because I want to just talk about it a little bit with all of us. So interestingly enough, the Paducah-McCracken County Convention Center, their bylaws are such that all of their appointments, number one, are joint city-county appointments. And number two, they all roll off at exactly the same time, the entire board. So when I saw that, I wanted to get with Judge Clymer and talk with the board members. You know, there's been a lot going on at the convention center. First of all, the convention center was, you know, when COVID first hit, you know, was pretty decimated because there's nobody doing conventions. But then we had this sports tourism thing begin to kick in, and we got volleyball tournaments and basketball tournaments over there, and so things have begun to, you know, to lift. But, you know, given everything that's going on, I just thought it was a good idea to sit down with Mark Whitlow, who is the chairman, and really determine what was going on and to make sure that everybody on that board wanted to continue to serve. And so Mark, prior to our lunch with Judge Clymer, you know, sat down with his board and, you know, talked about the future and where they were going, and all of them do want to be reappointed and are very much engaged and enthused about the future of the convention center and kind of where we're going, which is really what we want. We want engaged board members, you know, who are enthusiastic about the future. So I just wanted to kind of call that out, you know, and give you guys, if you had a chance to, you know, if you have a question or a comment or a thought about the convention center or the process, we could talk about it, but I just wanted to call it out.
Well, I did notice all of them at one time. That seemed like a lot.
Yeah.
Are there with the reappointments, are the terms all going to expire at the same time again?
Yes, but we asked Mark Whitlow they've had about 8 different reiterations of their bylaws. I don't know how many, but they've had a number of changes to their bylaws, but this is one change they've never made, and that is to stagger the appointments. So Mark agreed to, at some point, take a look at that. So they're gonna redo the bylaws at some point. That's what he's committed to, and because I think it makes sense to go about it a different way than have them all expire at the same time.
Well, I just think there needs to be some continuity, and there needs to be some institutional knowledge that carries over. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, really, you know, the judge and I mean, worst case scenario, you know, we could not reappoint any of them, and then you'd lose everything.
Right.
Or, you know, so
But-
your point's well taken.
Okay,
So,
I'm just wondering.
yep.
I think one of these is an appointment recommendation from the Chamber of Commerce, which we would recommend this person again,
Okay.
but I do think he represents us, or represents the chamber.
Okay, so you're saying that he's not a joint city-county
I
appointment?
think you affirm him, yes.
Oh,
We
okay.
would have made that recommendation, which I don't.
Yeah, that's,
And it's fine, we would recommend this person,
Yes.
but I do think that comes from us to,
I think there used to
Okay.
be there used to be the Hospitality Association, there used to be 3 or 4 in there, as well as a couple from the city, a couple from the county, but they were both reaffirmed by both bodies, to the
Yes.
best of my recollection.
but
And
the recommendation came from
Correct.
those organizations
But
for those nominees.
apparently, a lot of things have changed.
no, I think you're exactly right, and I think I may have missed that. I mean, may it not have gone back to you to make sure that you reaffirmed it, you know, so, but if you're okay.
Yes,
then we'll move forward.
we would be.
Okay. Mea culpa. Okey dokey. City Clerk, would you please read?
A proposed motion that the Board of Commissioners approve the action of Mayor Bray in the joint reappointments of Mark Whitlow, Tom Paget, Darrell Peet, Bill Bartleman, David Jones, Alex Sherwood, Andrew McGlinnan, and John Mann to the Paducah-McCracken County Convention Center Corporation. Said term shall expire July 1st, 2024.
So moved.
Second?
Call roll.
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Commissioner Guess,
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Mayor Bray.
Aye. Okey dokey. We have the adoption of an ordinance, second reading, and I'll ask the city clerk to read it.
A proposed motion of the Board of Commissioners to adopt an ordinance entitled, an ordinance amending Chapter 126 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Paducah related to conditional uses. This ordinance is summarized as follows. This ordinance amends Section 126-68, conditional uses of the Paducah Code of Ordinances. This amendment allows for applications for conditional use permits to go directly to the Board of Adjustment for approval or denial without first being brought before the Paducah Planning Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any questions about this? We discussed it at the last meeting. Are we good? Okay. Call roll, please.
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Commissioner Guess,
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Mayor Bray.
Aye. Okay, so we've got some ordinances we're going to introduce tonight. And there's actually 3 contract modifications. So why don't I let the city clerk read those, Rick? We have to read them and then vote on them, right? We can't read them all.
No vote
Okay.
necessary.
They're introductions. It's just introductions.
Oh, okay, that's right. Okay, so why don't you read them all then?
A proposed motion of the Board of Commissioners to introduce an ordinance entitled, an ordinance authorizing and directing the mayor to execute contract modification number 1 with BFW Engineering and Testing Incorporated to increase the contract by $74,345 for the Buckner Lane Bridge replacement over Crooked Creek. This ordinance is summarized as follows. On March 31st, 2020, the city authorized a professional services contract with BFW Engineering and Testing Incorporated for $154,036 for the Buckner Lane Bridge replacement over Crooked Creek. American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA funding, allowed for appropriation of $4 million toward this specific stormwater mitigation projects. The Buckner Lane Bridge replacement project was identified as a stormwater project for which ARPA funding can be used. This ordinance authorizes contract modification number 1 with BFW Engineering and Testing for additional services for an increase in the amount of $74,345, adjusting the total construction project from $154,036 to $228,381.
So moved.
Second.
You want to read the second one? Go ahead.
A proposed motion that the Board of Commissioners introduce an ordinance entitled, an ordinance authorizing and directing the mayor to execute contract modification number 1 with BFW Engineering and Testing Incorporated to increase the contract by $106,500 for the South 24th Street and South 25th Street Improvement Project. This ordinance is summarized as follows. On November 24th, 2020, the city authorized a professional services contract with BFW Engineering and Testing Incorporated for $159,775 for the South 24th Street and South 25th Street Improvement Project. American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA funding allowed for the appropriation of $4 million toward specific stormwater mitigation projects. The South 24th Street and South 25th Street Improvement Project was identified as a stormwater project for which ARPA funding could be used. This ordinance authorizes contract modification number 1 with BFW Engineering and Testing for additional services for an increase in the amount of $106,500, adjusting the total construction project from $159,775 to $266,275.
So moved.
Second.
Mayor, if we could we stop there? Because
sure.
the third one is going to be on a totally different subject
Okay.
on the build part.
Okay,
And I don't want to.
that's good.
Yeah, okay.
So wrap these two together if you can.
Yes, on that. I actually, what our city clerk read, Lindsay, thank you for reading that. It opens up a lot of information of how we're moving forward. Both of those first 2 projects that she mentioned, the Buckner Lane project, and I'll talk about that specifically right here. Or what happened to our TV over there? Okay, moving over here, if you follow the cursor, there's an existing bridge here on Buckner Lane that is, is probably 75 years old. It's way past its date of needing replacement. In 2018, we had a flood, and we asked for some money from FEMA to replace this bridge. They were so gracious to give us about $438,000 to replace the bridge. Okay, well, to replace the bridge, that's one thing. And they only allow you to spend money specific to what you're applying for. But once the ARPA money became available, we expanded that project so that we can come down here and address the Oak Crest Bridge as well. That's something that needs addressing because we have a lot of tributary area that's coming down. These apartments, they flood. You've seen these apartments in our comprehensive master plan. So what we're looking to do is we're looking to have a comprehensive project that starts about right here on Hanson Road, where Hanson and Buckner intersect, and we're going to address this entire corridor all the way down to near the Pecan Drive intersection so that we can deal with all the drainage problems in this area at one time. And when we adopted that contract, we were initially just adopting the contract to replace the bridge because we needed to spend that money. Okay, so we've been in the process of designing and putting that in, but what we were going to do was we were going to put the bridge in and tie it in as quickly as possible. But that didn't solve the drainage problem. That solved a part of the drainage problem, but we didn't have enough money to go beyond that. But Mayor, through your guidance and this commission's decision to move forward with the ARPA money and taking $4 million, we're taking a piece of that money and we're actually addressing this entire drainage problem in this area. And that's one of your projects. That's one of your projects, one of your 10 that is in your comprehensive stormwater master plan. So, and it's a one-off, and we thought, well, if this is on the drawing board, let's expand this project and let's make it a completed project such that when we talk to the people in the Crooked Creek neighborhood, we're saying, we've done everything possible we can to make this better.
So here's a question, Rick.
Yes, sir.
So had we not gotten the money, the additional $4 million, what would we have done with these projects? How would they have manifested themselves? I mean, what?
We would just sit here, we'd have a new bridge. We'd have a new bridge that would start right there and end right here, but we will not address the drainage going on here. We're actually going to improve this, I'm going to call it a ditch. It's an oversized ditch. And we would have not addressed this. We actually attempted with FEMA saying, well, this bridge here needs replacing too. And they said, no, we're not going to do that. You're stretching it on that, but it actually needs to be replaced. So as a result of that, we're going to leverage our FEMA dollars and our ARPA dollars, and we're going to deal with this whole thing.
So it's an enhancement
Oh, it's
and big
it's a
improvements
great
of projects that were underway.
Absolutely. I mean, when you all decided to do that, I'm like, we already had projects, and I don't know if you remember.
No,
me saying,
remember.
I said, we already got
Sure.
projects on the board.
Right.
That this is just going to fall right in line with this. But we didn't always, the project was in 2019. I mean, we got the money in 18. We signed it in 19. ARPA money came in 20. So, I mean, with new monies, you can do bigger and better things. So we're like going, there's no reason not to complete this project. And we say, that project's done. We've done. And then when people ask the question, in the Crooked Creek area, Pecan Drive, Bruce Avenue, all those areas, we've done everything we can to make this the best we can. And I'm going to say this. Well, we should never flood again. No. You will not flood as frequently as you have, but we don't control Mother Nature. For example, if that September 7th of 2015 rain came again, the water is still going to go over the road. We're not making that kind of improvement. We're making an improvement such that their flooding will be significantly reduced.
Okay, why don't you talk about the second project then?
Thank you. Let me go there. Let's see if I can go there. Okay. Same situation, just different location. In 2018, we were able to secure monies from FEMA to replace the 24th Street Bridge that was on our list for replacement for a long time, but didn't have the money to do it. We secured about $328,000 for that. We got the bridge replaced. If you've been on 24th Street, you see that bridge. And we've actually set that up for sidewalks, and the reason for that is because, can we zoom out on that, Lindsay? A little bit, and then we'll zoom back in. We have the 25th Street project that we've got going on, and we expanded it to include 24th, 25th being up here by Brooks Stadium, going across from Jackson, all the way to Old Mayfield Road. And we got some money from the previous governor's administration to improve that, and say, well, when we got this money for the bridge on 24th Street, now we got another opportunity for an enhanced project. So again, when the ARPA money came available, let's zoom back in right here. Zoom down right there if you can, Lindsay. You recall in the last 6 weeks, not that much, I'll zoom out a little bit, sorry. You recall in the last maybe 6 to 8 weeks, we recently made a property purchase, okay? And that was to buy this 4 acres of property, follow the cursor down through here, and we bought this 4 acres. Now, we've experienced this problem of water coming over Jackson Street forever. And it was a suggestion in the comprehensive master plan that maybe we use the railroad as somewhat as a dam, make the holes, the pipes smaller under that, smaller, and let's store water on the golf course. So when we have this big storm, we'll store water on the golf course. Well, to the railroad industry, they're not real interested in damming up their pipes only to put their railroad in jeopardy of being washed out potentially, nor is the golf course interested in water standing out there on our municipal golf course. So when they made that suggestion, I'm like, in theory, that sounds great, but in practicality, that's probably not going to fly. But we do need to store some water somewhere. So we were able to acquire this property right here that's 4 acres. It's our intent to dig a pond. And now the pond is going to be a dry pond. It's going to be mowable. I mean, when there's no rain, you can go play in it. You can go, have a football game in the bottom of it. But if a real heavy rain comes and the creek starts loading up, then what we'll be able to do is when it starts surging, we'll start offloading water in here and let it surge, let it build up and store water so that, zoom out just a little bit if you would please, so that the water, when we get down a little bit more on that, that goes over Old Mayfield Road down here at Jackson Street where it goes under, and we're a little bit that way. Up that way, I'm sorry. Just more. Good. Where we have this problem right here where the water goes over the road, right in here. So if we come back here and we're storing water here, then hopefully we'll have less frequency of water coming over the road here. Again, using that ARPA money that was not in place when we replaced the bridge. Again, we just took the FEMA money, got that bridge replaced. Now we're taking the ARPA money and enhancing this because this is another project that's listed in your comprehensive stormwater master plan, whereas that discusses putting an additional box culvert underneath the highways right here. Well, that's going to be somewhat off in the future because we'd have to shut the highway down to do that. But if you look at the book, it talks about conveying, storing and conveying, or storing. We are doing a combination of storing right now. So again, we're going to, the work that BFW is doing on 24th Street, building sidewalks and some storm sewers through here, we are enhancing this project to be a stormwater mitigation project that was not originally part of the project at all, but with the addition of the ARPA money, we're able to do so.
Questions, comments from any commissioners? I think we were just trying to understand, why we were plussing up, if you will,
Well, you all were so kind as to, agree to take that $4 million and it's already in our, $3.2 million is already in our bank account.
Yeah.
and you want us to move that, and these projects being on the board, this is the fastest way we know how to move it, and it is going directly toward those projects that have been identified in our comprehensive stormwater master plan, so I see it as a win-win.
Yeah, not to beat a dead horse, I guess, but, we've talked about stormwater. Stormwater's a bit of, issue of great interest to, citizens, particularly, the more it's rained, and so I think this commission was, committed to spending some money, and this is the way we're beginning to spend some of that money.
Yeah, and I think we should communicate that every opportunity we get, that we are doing what we said we could do and what you all have committed to doing. And the more we communicate that, the better understanding our community is going to have with what we're doing.
Like you always remind people, that this doesn't take care of all the flooding. It's just going to help. Our stormwater issues here in Paducah are, much more massive than this, in terms of the long run. So, we've got a couple of big projects, that we haven't taken on at this point, that are still opportunities for the future. But this is, we had that money, that ARPA money, and so we wanted to begin to try to make a dent in the issue, and that's what we did. So.
And right now, one thing we need to think about, there's not hardly any city money that's involved in these projects right now. When you start thinking about it, city tax dollars physically involved in these, very, very little. For your FEMA money, for your bridge replacement, 87 cents on every dollar that was spent was somebody, OGM, other government's money. That's something we want to adopt, OGM, instead of other people's money, other government's money. And that's a lot of what we're doing with these projects. There's very little city dollars in this.
Okay. So City Clerk, you want to read the next ordinance?
A proposed motion of the Board of Commissioners to introduce an ordinance entitled, an ordinance authorizing and directing the mayor to execute contract modification number 2 with BFW Engineering and Testing Incorporated to increase the contract by $24,500 for the Build Environmental Assessment Project. This ordinance is summarized as follows. On April 14, 2020, the city authorized a professional services contract with BFW Engineering and Testing in the amount of $250,000 for environmental services for the Paducah Riverfront Improvement Project Build Grant. On April 27, 2021, the city authorized contract amendment number 1, adjusting the total contract to $262,200. During consultation with the Kentucky State Historic Preservation Office, MARAD, and the Indians Tribes, the city of Paducah will be required to enter into an unforeseen programmatic agreement. BFW will be providing additional consulting services on behalf of the city to satisfy the programmatic agreement requirements. Contract modification number 2 with BFW is required for an increase in the amount of $24,500, adjusting the total construction project from $262,200 to $286,700 for the Build Environmental Assessment Project.
So moved.
Second.
Mayor, originally we were going to have Susanna Campbell from BFW come in because she has been, herself and Jeff Herod have been working on this for over a year now to get things in line for our project. But I wanted Jeff Herod to come up here with BFW. Jeff Herod is a retired U.S. Fish and Wildlife biologist, of whom has taken another career. Whereas, as we worked through these projects and asked for permission, Jeff was on the other side saying, you need to do these studies, you need to go grab this and whatever. Well, now Jeff is experiencing the wrath of his regulatory retirement job as on the consulting side. So I thought I would have Jeff come up and give you all insight into what this is about. So Jeff.
Thank you, Brent.
Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you.
With that an introduction. You can take it off if you.
So, what I'm going to talk about is there we go, revising the scope. So, the original scope and what the revision is about is, as Rick set it up, is the National Historic and Preservation Act, Section 106. So, as far as the environmental permitting for this project, this is the one that we had some unforeseen results come from when we were consulting with the State Historic and Preservation Office. The original scope was to examine historic maps, aerial photographs, identify historical sites, work with the state archaeology office, determine if there are any sites, archaeological sites on the ground, if there's any presence, any material still there, and then prepare the reports. That was all part of the original scope. All of that's been completed. We consulted with the State Historic Preservation Office, and they came back and said, well, the information's good, but we can't make a determination because the project is in a concept phase. So the actual infrastructure project is still a concept. There are no build-specific design. So it's causing a conflict for us to get a determination from the State Historic Preservation Office. So the State Historic Preservation Office worked with the Maritime Administration, who's actually providing funding to the grant, and they came up with a workaround, which is a programmatic agreement. This is something that was new to me. It's a little bit outside of the Section 106 process, but what it allows us to do is a couple of things. One is you bring in certain invited parties, people the government agencies you'd be consulting with. We bring them in and we set up this programmatic agreement which outlines how we protect historic resources and comply with the Section 106. So we have the interested parties at the table with us. We draft up how we'd be doing these protective measures, and that would move us forward. That allows us actually to move forward in completing our NEPA environmental assessment, which is needed to move the grant process forward. So I know this is very complicated, but I'm trying to lay out these little stones. So the way that the grant process works is we have to meet environmental compliance for the Maritime Administration. To do that, we need a letter from the SHPO saying that the project will not result in any adverse effects to cultural and historic resources. They cannot give us that letter because they don't have enough information about the actual design to make that determination. So the way the process is laid out, if we can get a signed programmatic agreement, then we'd be able to do our NEPA and actually send in that letter. That goes to MARAD. MARAD then would send that over to their grants office, and then they could release the funds, which then allows the build design phase of the project to continue. So the nuance here is we're meeting our compliance for Section 106. The State Historic Preservation Office is involved in this whole process, and we are making sure we're protective and compliant all the way through, which allows us to get the grant money to go forward. So basically, the scope, the revised scope is Baker Farm and Workman would basically help draft this programmatic agreement. We'd make sure that we get all the information that is wanted from the invited parties into the NEPA document. That way we can submit the NEPA document after we have the signed programmatic agreement. That would allow us then to move forward to the next phase, which is the secure the grant funding from MARAD. So, that was a lot of information, but in general, it is actually a very simple workaround. It is just trying to get this one piece in place, which is a programmatic agreement. Once we can get that, then we can get the money. We can move forward then with the actual design build. And at that point, we can provide something to the State Historic Preservation Office so that we can get the whole document settled.
So you know what I'm going to ask you? How long? I mean, are we looking at 2 months, 12 months, 6 months?
So for the programmatic agreement, kind of reading tea leaves, I would say maybe a couple of months. We have to draft a document. We already have the consulting parties together. They've all agreed that this is the process to move forward. The document's a fairly simple document to draft up, it's proclamation. So I don't think it would take more than a couple of months to do that.
Okay.
So I would ask, are we meeting the deadlines that we need to for the build grant? We're staying within those ranges?
Yes, Commissioner Wilson, we are. All of our targets we're hitting, but as for the number of agencies that Jeff mentioned, they all have to be satisfied and they all play into it. I refer to these things when we're using OGM, we have to load the wagon. When they want something, we have to provide it, or otherwise, we're not necessarily going to comply with that. Could we challenge and say, do we really have to do that? Well, actually, challenging causes you more time because of that, in lieu of, if that's what you want, we'll load the wagon, we'll get that done.
No, I mean, I understand that
Yeah.
part. I just want to make sure
Yeah.
it doesn't delay us,
Well,
you know, that.
and to the mayor's point, what I was going to say, and I think what we're more interested in, when might we see active construction on that?
Yes.
And to that point, I would say maybe this time or a little later next year, would we see active construction? Let's take his 2 months, okay? And let's say if we had Christmas, that we had all of the regulatory things out of the way and got a signed SHPO document, now we have to advertise for a design consultant or a team design consultant to move forward. We can't spend the first dollar on design because we have to satisfy this first. And I'm not going, we got a chicken and egg problem. Regulators need to see real things rather than concept drawings, if we back that up, to make their decisions. They see concepts. That's not enough information for them to distinguish, am I missing something or not? They need to see more concrete drawings. So December, if we get something positive, we'll move into advertising for RFQs. We'll get a design team together. We'll put all that together, put something out for bid, maybe in June, July, maybe actually be working October of next year. But what happens in October? River comes back up again. Okay, so, but I mean, to answer your question, I think the earliest we would be doing any real construction would be fall of next year.
But I was just asking, are we going to
Yes.
meet the guidelines from the build grant?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah,
There
we're
were
going
certain
to meet
deadlines.
all those guidelines, absolutely, because if we don't, we won't get our money, and we're going to get our money. So yes, we're going to meet the guidelines.
That really is the answer we needed. Good job, thank you. That's it.
Trying to answer, I know that we're.
No,
I know
that's
we're
fine.
anxious
Good
to get
job, good
started.
job, Rick.
Yeah,
Jeff,
yeah.
thanks
No,
for being
that's
here.
it.
Appreciate it
That's
very
great,
much.
thank you.
So, okay, so we've got one more ordinance that we want to introduce for tonight, and that's, well, I'll let City Clerk read it.
A proposed motion of the Board of Commissioners to introduce an ordinance entitled, an ordinance accepting the bid of Wilkins Construction Company Incorporated in the amount of $495,784 for Riverfront Park Landmass Scour Project and authorizing the mayor to execute a contract for same. This ordinance is summarized as follows. The City of Paducah accepts the bid of Wilkins Construction Company Incorporated in the amount of $495,784 for the Riverfront Landmass Scour Project. Said bid being in substantial compliance with the bid specifications and advertisement for bids as contained in the bid of Wilkins Construction Company Incorporated of August 26, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Mayor Commission, you've heard me mention the flood of 2018 on several occasions. This is yet another project that was come out of the flood of 2018. When we first started, could you take me back, or get me off of this, Lindsay?
Where you want to go to?
If you would just take me back to one of the maps, and just zoom out and go to the riverfront if you don't mind, real quick, where the landmass is. Downstream a little bit. Downstream, yeah, thank you. Yeah, there it is right there. When we built the landmass, of course, we've had several floods, 2018, 2019, and 2020. Our landmass has suffered some damage, some scouring, and some damage to the infrastructure that was built down there. Through FEMA, we secured about $550,000 to make repairs to this. If you look down in this area right here where the revetment comes up, you'll see it's all scoured out. Lindsay, if we could zoom in on that a little bit. And we're going to extend the revetment on down into the steps. So if you've been down on our Greenway Trail Phase 5, if you see what looks like puzzle pieces that are put in next to the sidewalk that's on Greenway 5, you know, those interesting stones. Well, the stones, we don't have those around the outer edge of this sidewalk here, and that's vulnerable on that. So as a result of some of us seeing the scouring stuff, those stones that we put in on Greenway 5 are going to actually be extended all the way around the boundary of this outer edge to help reinforce that so that sidewalk doesn't get undermined as a result of the river coming up and over it. We'll be placing a lot of riprap that has been washed out here and then also in this area, and then more specifically in this area here. You see the difference in this and this. So we'll be placing a lot of riprap in here for that. We'll be having to shut the park down for a little while we do this work to place the stones and stuff in there. But we look for this work to be done before the end of this year.
And that does not permanently take care of our problem. Is that a true statement, or?
I don't understand your.
Well, the problem with, what are we trying to fix there?
Well, right now, we just have a scour problem. We want to make sure that everything that we have stays in place and is more, I guess, robust and is not as agitated by the river. It's more armored from the river action as the river comes in, and of course you have wave action and stuff. So we're just trying to make it where it's more resilient to river, I guess, atmosphere for that. We are going to have damage occasionally here and there, but we've noticed some things that 3 years in a row that we were flooded, and we're just going to take care of some things. And
Okay.
again, 13 cents on the dollar is what we have in this. Other government's money has got, 87 cents on the dollar on this, and we're going to take advantage of that. And it's going to help
Okay.
us improve that area as well.
I don't have any other questions.
Okay,
Everybody else good?
thank you.
Okay, we've got one more ordinance. Thank you, Rick. We have one more ordinance to read, and that's the tax levies that we talked about earlier. So I'll ask the city clerk to read it, please.
A proposed motion of the Board of Commissioners to introduce an ordinance entitled, an ordinance fixing the levies and rates of taxation on all property in the City of Paducah, Kentucky, subject to taxation for municipal purposes and for school purposes for the period from July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022, with the purposes of said taxes hereunder defined. For these purposes, it'll be a rate per $100, general fund of the city, real property at $0.271, personal property at $0.390, motor vehicle and watercraft at $0.390. School purposes, Paducah Junior College real estate, $0.016. Personal property, $0.016. Motor vehicles and watercraft, $0.031. The City of Paducah shall collect the following taxes for the Board of Education: Paducah Independent School District real property, $0.864. Personal property, $0.864, inventory, $0.864, total tax rate per $100 real property, $1.151, total tax rate per $100 personal property, $1.27, total tax rate per $100 inventory, $0.864, total tax rate per $100 motor vehicle and watercraft, $0.421. Property taxes levied herein shall be due and payable in the following manner. In the case of tax bills which reflect an amount due of less than $1,000, the payment shall be due on November 1st, 2021, and shall be payable without penalty and interest until November 30th, 2021. In the case of all other tax bills, payment shall be in accordance with the following provisions. The first half payment shall be due on November 1st, 2021, and shall be payable without penalty and interest until November 30th, 2021. The second half payment shall be due on February 1st, 2022, and shall be payable without penalty and interest until February 28th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. So that's all the ordinances, and now we'll move to a discussion item, touchdowns and tunes. So we have a couple of folks here that want to make comments. I'm going to start out and make some comments and let any of the commissioners want to jump in and talk about it. But I'll start out. We had an event last weekend called Touchdowns and Tunes. It's not the first time that we've had touchdowns and tunes here in Paducah, but it was the first time that we've had it at Carson Park. Just in the interest of full disclosure, the city and the county really collaborated on that event. The county actually owns, it's very unique, they own Carson Park. It's actually within the city limits, but they own the land. It was left to the county by Luther Carson many, many years ago, and it is very restricted, and the county has made a decision that they want to promote that, that location more and have more things go on there. So Touchdown and Tunes is an event that started a few years ago. This year they selected Carson Park as the location, and really booked some very large acts. Probably I don't want to say the largest acts that have ever been, artists that have ever been to Paducah, but in 3 consecutive days, probably some of the best artists that's ever been here over that period of time. I want to certainly acknowledge that I think it was a surprise to the community in many, many respects. It was surprising the scale of the event. There was a lot of advertising that was done on the event. Tickets have been sold for over a year, but it was a surprise, the scale of the event, the quality of the acts, and certainly the volume of the noise over last weekend. It took a lot of us, by surprise. Overall, it was a very positive event. There was over 15,000 people that attended, over the 3 days. That brought people to Paducah, visitors from out of town. There was a lot of people that that went out there and enjoyed the event. I certainly got a few complaints, emails. A couple of the ladies that are speaking tonight are 2 of the people that definitely let it be known that they were concerned about the event. And overall, I think I had about 7 or 8 people that that made contact with me. In conversations in the community, I've gotten really a lot of positives. In fact, probably 2 of the most positive comments I got were in the last few days, where a couple people independently came up to me and certainly acknowledged the noise, but talked about how it made them feel that the community was moving forward, that the community was bringing something to Paducah that we'd never done before. And that it was a place for our young people to go. We're always talking about, things that, opportunities that people don't have here, in this city. And so it was unsolicited, but, I thought it was an interesting comment that they made. So it made an impact on the local economy, hotels, and other vendors that participated, in the event. So the event definitely, I'm sure, has some growing pains. And one of the things that we need to acknowledge, for sure, is that the volume was very loud, and was surprisingly loud, to people who did not anticipate it. And so that's something that we certainly need to acknowledge and work through if we have that event at that location again. But overall, I thought it was a positive event, and I know there was some concern, and I just wanted to, in the interest of openness and full disclosure, I wanted to get it out there and have us talk about it. Acknowledge some of the concerns that some of our citizens have. I really appreciate the 2 ladies coming here tonight and talking about it. So, but if any of the other commissioners have any thoughts, we can. I was going to alter the schedule, let them come up and talk if you want to do that, or if anybody else has any comments they'd like to make.
Well, Mayor, I always appreciate your openness and how you like to get things out there. get us talking about it. I did receive some letters as well, emails, as all of us did. And if all of the things that were in those emails are accurate, the noise, that does concern me. I heard it. I live on 24th Street. I heard it, but there was no clarity. I just knew there was some noise. So I think that whether we have one person who complains or 101 people, I certainly don't think we should take it lightly. I think we should certainly be investigating and see what we can do about the noise level. The other thing that concerns me, again, if all this information is accurate, is as complaints were made that neither the city, police, nor the sheriff's department felt the need or didn't know exactly how to handle it. They both said it was out of their jurisdiction. And so if all of that's accurate, then that does concern me that at some point the citizens had no safe haven during that time. But I'm glad that we were able to bring folk out, and glad people felt comfortable enough to come out during that time. Again, it was one of those events that a lot of my constituents had no knowledge of. And when I say no knowledge of, they don't know who the performers were. They didn't know who the performers were. So again, I think in the days ahead, we have to work on bringing some people to town that everybody can enjoy.
Mayor,
Go on.
well, I had, I wanted to ask, because I did receive some, and I kept seeing that, the city had granted a variance to the noise ordinance, and I know that there was a process that the city put in place to do that. Could we explain what that process was? Because I think it probably happened before you all were on the commission, and really it came through the city manager's office. Not to put it on you, Darren, it wasn't even you here, but to explain that process.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. And through the research, so former city manager Jim Arndt took the opportunity to send out over 300 letters directly to individuals that surrounded that neighborhood and that would be impactful, giving them the opportunity to express an opinion about a variance being offered up for this event, explain what the event would be. In that, there were no responses that came in, and so under the existing ordinance, the city manager office did issue a variance. It had specific timeframes that were in place for that variance and the dates. Additionally, there was a requirement of the promoter to also do other engagements with the community surrounding that would be impacted, and I believe that the promoter did that as well. So there were several things. One of the complaints that was brought forth that I received, actually the only complaint that I directly received, was that the noise variance, the time from that was not adhered to on the front side, not so much on the back side of 11 p.m., but on the front side. And I believe that there's an opportunity for us to address that very simply by explaining with the promoter and working with the promoter and the county that sound checks are part of that variance and that they shouldn't start prior to any variance that is offered. And I just think there was an opportunity to learn, as the mayor said, a learning experience there. And I believe that's, from my research, I believe that is where outside the actual variance, the issue occurred is that pre-checking of sound levels and things started before that actual variance, and that the entertainment actually started within the variance.
So, yeah, particularly, the sound checks started earlier in the morning, I think, and I heard something about Sunday morning, which Sunday was the biggest act and the biggest crowd. So I definitely heard that, and I just wanted to respond to what Commissioner Henderson said. I mean, one of the things I've learned in my life, my career, is that if you hear from 7 people, there's you don't hear from everybody,
right,
but there's other people thinking the same thing. So, I want to fully acknowledge, that, and so there's an opportunity to learn and figure out if there's a way that we can put this event on in a way that's, where we, balance everything in our community. But from my perspective, it's, I ran for office, in trying to grow the community, move it forward, and you kind of do that one step at a time. And, I think overall, this was a step, a positive step with some, opportunities for learning, so.
I think one concern was how often do we plan, would we plan to have events there at this level?
Right.
I mean, if it's going to be once a year when we're going to issue that, then maybe I don't know how people didn't know about it. I did know about it a lot, but people don't hear the news and people don't read that. And those 300 people that got the letter, who knows if they opened it or not. But how often do we plan to issue noise the variance throughout the year that they would be bothered with that level of noise?
I think one
That's
thing
a
I would-
question.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I can answer that.
I know, I'm not asking for an answer, but it's something we should consider.
But I mean, one of the things I would say that if we want to issue a noise ordinance again, we probably ought to talk about it, among all of us, given these circumstances, so.
Well, Commissioner Wilson, I know none of us were on the commission when that happened, when that variance was granted, but do you remember, and I don't think any of us were on in, I guess it was 18 and 19. I know they didn't have touchdown in teens in 20, but when they did have it in 18 and 19, was the variance granted then?
Well, it was downtown.
Town.
It was
I know.
held downtown.
I know.
And I don't know if it was or not, because none of them have been discussed at the city commission level that I can remember. Now, I don't remember every single thing, but I don't remember us discussing it. Would have been through the city manager, and I don't remember getting any complaints when it was downtown.
And from my research also, it seems like when it was downtown, and maybe why, and again, not being involved with it, but trying to read back through the research, is that the stage faced the river. And so the sound projected out into the river and not back into town towards residential. And so there may not been a thought process of needing a noise variance because it projected out into the river and wasn't impactful. From, again, just as my research, I'm trying to think back about why that might have occurred, but that would be one explanation of why, if a noise variance wasn't, that possibly it was because of that it didn't project into residential areas.
And then I do think the lack of not the city, I mean, I don't know this, if the police and sheriff were saying we don't know. I did hear that, but I don't know if that was the case on law enforcement. I did get a letter that said Judge Clymer had gone down there himself, and I said, well, you know more than I know, because I didn't.
He said he went down there Sunday night and told him to turn it down.
I don't know if he did or not.
Turn down, those speakers. That's what I heard.
Yeah. I mean, I drove around. Well, really all 3 nights, just outside, and I have a friend that lives close by, and I was in touch with her. Honestly, one time she said, it's a break time, so no, you're not hearing the music right now. But I did, drive around just to see if I thought I could hear it. I mean, I could hear it at my house too, not the lyrics, not the words, but I could hear just that there was music going on. It did shut down at 11. For some people, that's late.
Yeah.
I get that, it's hard to please everybody. Yes, it is. But I think there are opportunities for improvement if it is going to be held again.
Okay, anybody else?
No, I mean,
Okay, I'm going to alter the schedule here, and I'm going to invite, first of all, Amelia Martins, who lives on Jefferson, to come up. Thank you for being here. You have 3 minutes for comments, so just
Okay. I will start. Hi, my name's Amelia Martins, and I live at 2929 Jefferson Street, so directly in the path of this 3-day festival that did begin early in the morning, and it was not sound checks. They were playing actual music. The sound checks actually happened closer to the 11 o'clock variance time. There was literal music playing at 8:30 on Saturday, 9:30 on Sunday, which is a violation of the variance, and it should have been shut down right there. And you can find that in your codes. I have young children, elementary school age children. 11 o'clock is late. That's about 4 hours after we're getting ready for bed. It was a 3-day festival. It was Labor Day weekend, which was not last weekend. So,
Yeah, I stand
Labor Day
corrected.
weekend, so that means for 3 days, And I'm a teacher, my husband's a teacher. We were looking forward to a relaxing weekend in which we could open possibly our windows, maybe sit in our backyard, which we did not get to do. The music was so loud. We live in a brick house, so it's not it's not a flimsy house. It's an old brick house. It was vibrating. The windows were vibrating. Shelves were vibrating. I called the non-emergency number every day, multiple times a day. The dispatch always said, it's Carson Park. It belongs to the sheriff. Sheriff, I talked to you every time. The one on Friday night was lovely. Every time I talked to them, they said, the county doesn't have a noise ordinance. And I said, well, there's a variance. How loud can it be? No one could answer the question of how loud it could be. At no point could they say, oh, well, they can get this loud. I measured just up to 80 decibels with my cell phone in the backyard. That has an interior microphone. So if I'm at 80 decibels, it's much higher than that because of the level of my microphone. Okay, that's like OSHA level standards. Imagine that for 12 hours, 12 plus hours, for 3 days. The CIA uses music to terrorize people. This was ridiculous. Move it someplace else where it's not destroying people's weekends. Think about how successful it was down at the river. I'm not against bringing people in and the city doing well and us making money, but we do not need to alienate the people that already live here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Miss Bowden?
So I'm renting a house right now on North 31st Street. So we were also about a block away in the direct path of the stage. And the first thing I want to say is not even about the volume. It's about the fact that I'm disappointed that in a pandemic, our city is enthusiastically supporting an event that promoted itself as anti-mask, anti-vaccine. Their Facebook page was like, everybody just show up, no masks, no vaccines, we don't care. And I know we're outdoors, but still, 15,000 people over 3 days. How many of those people you think were like breathing on each other? I mean, it's a little absurd. I also want to say that not, as Commissioner Henderson said, this was not an event for everybody in town. The price of tickets was astronomical. Young people are not going out on this Friday night. And also only catered to a very specific, very white audience, which is not really what I think our city should be doing. My main problem with the volume and the sound was that it started at 8:45 on Saturday morning. And like Amelia, I called the police, and I talked to the police, and they said it's county property. And I talked to the sheriff, who said it's a permit issued by the city, so you need to talk to the city. So at that time, nobody could help me. And what I got told from the police was I had to wait until Tuesday morning to talk to anybody. So while this was happening, there was nothing I could do about it. I had to sit in my house, which was also vibrating. My windows were rattling. You could hear the lyrics in my house for 3 days, in the house, with the air conditioner running and the windows shut. I also have young children. At one point, and I wrote this in my email, which only Commissioner Guest responded to, my 2-year-old was holding his hands over his ears and crying in our house. So I think this is absurd. I think the volume level was absurd. I think having a 3-day festival at Carson Park is absurd. If you want to have an event, have a 1-day event. If we're going to have this every year on Labor Day, people like Amelia are not going to be able to have any kind of Labor Day celebration. She's never going to be able to sit out in her yard on that 3-day weekend. Come on. Would you guys want this in your neighborhood? Do you want this down the street from you for 3 days, where you can't even hear yourself think in your house? And it should have been shut down. If you look at section 42-107D, anytime the variance is violated, it should be immediately shut down. And there are penalties which nobody enforced. So I think we should have this. If we're going to have it, let's have it down at the river. Let's make it more inclusive. Let's make it less expensive. And let's not make it where people stand up there and say, oh, I'm so happy nobody's wearing any masks. Come on. That's really who we want to be? I'm very disappointed.
Thank you. Like I said before, really do appreciate you all coming. I appreciate your comments because I know that, there's others that feel the same way, and I think you represent, other people than just yourself. But thank you very much. So we'll move to comments from the city manager. City manager?
Mayor, Commissioners, just two items just to make you aware. First, internally, we're doing a software upgrade that'll impact city services this Friday through Monday, September 20th. We are upgrading our financial permitting and plan review software, and so it will require us to go offline in several of the operations of accepting payments. We'll be putting out a press release on that later this evening with information. The specific services will be in the finance department, where they'll not be able to make business license or property tax payments in person or over the phone. And in the fire prevention, customers will not be able to submit applications for building permits on Friday or through Monday, and in planning and engineering, not be able to submit applications or plans or pay application or permit fees. We understand that this is a disruption, and we are working very hard to limit that, and hopefully it won't take through Monday at noon, but that's the anticipation just in case we will that. So just want to make that aware, and it does not want to make certain that the public understands that the upgrade does not impact negatively our public safety operations, our 911 dispatching, or registrations through the Park and Rec Department. I'll answer any questions that you might have on that. The other item, just want to make you aware, the bids, we received 2 bids on the engineering design for the Cherry Civic Center. Those 2 bids are being reviewed, and our anticipation is to have a recommendation at the next commission meeting for your consideration.
Right,
but we
that's
did
good. That's
receive
progress.
Yeah, we did receive 2 bids on those. So,
Okay.
that's all I have.
Thank you, City Manager. Any comments from fellow commissioners?
None for me.
Okay, then I think we would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Commissioner Getz,
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Mayor Bray.
Aye.